the sky.
Welcome to Go-Kart.
What's up, guys? It's Gary. So today I want to talk to you about why go-karts are a waste of money. The best go-kart you can buy is a lawn tractor. Now trust me, I'm going to show you guys some examples on Marketplace of what you can get with a what you're going to pay for a go-kart. And you got to keep in mind that a typical go-kart is going to be about 3 inches off the ground, have little tiny tires. If you're big, if you're a normal sized person, not a child, you may or may not fit in it. And they're typically only going to have around maybe 5 to 10 horsepower at the most. Typically they're in the neighborhood of 5-6 horsepower. Centrifugal clutch, no gears. It's going to do about 25 miles an hour if you're lucky. Now, a lawn tractor has a lot going for it. You can pick these things up for nearly nothing, sometimes literally free. And you really got to just look out on Marketplace because there's tons of deals and there's tons of different models. And basically, going back through the 90s and from the 90s and newer are really the ones you want to look for if you want to really highly modify them. So let's start by looking at these three over here, which are actually all based on the exact same chassis, same mower and everything. So these three machines here, the original one from the channel that you guys know as the Hot Rod Tractor, one that I am kind of the caretaker for now that belongs to my friend Craig, and one that my friend Dan gave me that he built years ago as well. All three of these machines are AYP chassis. I believe that's American Yard, AYP. American Yard Products? I'm not even sure. But basically, this is was a Craftsman. It's a Craftsman LT 2000. That was also over there. Actually, to be honest, I believe all three of these were Craftsmans. Now, there was also Husqvarnas that were the exact same chassis, hence this Husqvarna hood, which, by the way, does not go to this machine. This goes to another machine that I have in the back, and I'll show you that too, just to give you an idea of some of the things you can do with these. And there were also a few other manufacturers that sold this exact same chassis under their own name. Pullin Pro is one of them, and there may have been a few others. All three of these also have different engines. And that is one of the really cool things about a mower versus a go-kart. So a go-kart pretty much is always going to be the same thing. It's going to be a little single-cylinder engine with a centrifugal clutch, and that is it. That's what you get. With a mower, there's so many options. You can get them with the drivetrain that you want. You can swap the drivetrain you want onto them from other parts machines. You got single cylinders, big single cylinders with like 20 horsepower, 500 plus cc. V-twins of all different types, anywhere from like a 14 horsepower V-twin on up to 25 or 30 horsepower even. And beyond that if you wanted to spend some money. But this is all about doing it on a budget. So don't worry about the crazy 35 horsepower Vanguards and stuff. Those are like, you're not going to touch them for any kind of reasonable amount of money. But they're out there. And so you have, opposed twin, V-twin, single cylinder. And then there's the gearbox, and that's the beautiful thing about these mowers, is that you have a shiftable gearbox. You can drive it just like a car, shiftable on the fly. It's kind of like a sequential transmission. There's older ones have 4-speed, there's 5-speed and 6-speed, and there are a bunch of different variations, different manufacturers that made them. And so let's take a look at what we have here. This one, the Hot Rod Tractor, has a Intech V-twin, Briggs & Stratton Intech V-twin, right around 20 horsepower, 40 cubic inch, 650 cc. This guy here has I believe it's a little bit bigger. I want to say it's like a 725 cc, right around 20 horsepower also, opposed twin. And so kind of a boxer engine, more or less. Pistons pointing out that way and that way. These have a really unique sound. They sound awesome. They run great. They are basically the bulletproof, reliable engines of the mower engines. They are flathead. They don't make that much power, but they're really awesome engines. The V-twins, on the other hand, they have a V-twin sound, as you would expect. With the right exhaust, it basically sounds like a Harley, and they can make a lot more power, even just mild setups where you're not going crazy modifying them. And then this one over here has a single-cylinder engine. And this is the Intech Briggs & Stratton single-cylinder. So the architecture and design of this engine is related to the Intech V-twin. So there was also a Briggs & Stratton Vanguard V-twin, which I have another machine that has one. I'll talk about that as well. Those are considered the better engine out of the Briggs variants. But this is a 31 cubic inch, so I believe right around 500 cc or so. These came a little bit bigger. There was a 33 cube as well, and I think they came up to 20 or 21 horsepower. So this was probably roughly 17, 18 horsepower maybe. And I'll tell you what, it pulls, it's fast. Like, it actually pulls just as hard as my V-twin. Now granted, that mower is definitely heavier by probably quite a bit heavier than this. This one is a totally stock chassis, other than the fact that it's, you know, it's got like Heim joints for steering. It has an exhaust out the back and a throttle pedal, but more or less it is just a stock mower made to go fast with a pulley swap and bigger tires. This one's a little bit more modified. Obviously, you know, you got to have your pulley swap. It has stock size mower tires. Those are garden tractor tires on the front, so 8-inch wheel on the front. Normally they would have had a 6-inch wheel on the front and then an 8-inch wheel in the back with stock mower tires. So that rear wheel and tire setup is 100% stock that all three of these machines would have had. Then of course this one has a highly modified steering setup with still a stock mower steering box. All three of these have that same steering box. That is the best mower steering box you're going to find, and they come on these machines stock. There was a version that was not good that also came on these, so you got to watch out for that. Then this one, the hot rod tractor, is a bit more modified even, where the axle is out in front. So this one, the axle has been moved forward just a bit. That one over there is totally stock. So all of these are lined up at the rear, and you can see the wheelbase is slightly longer on this guy. Oh, there we go. You can see this wheelbase slightly longer on that guy. But then you go over here, and you can see that the old hot rod tractor over there is much longer altogether. So on this one, the axle is mounted out in front. The chassis in the rear is extended as well. So this one's actually about 17 inches longer wheelbase than stock. And similar setup, you know, same steering box, go-kart steering shaft, old school steering wheel, and a go-kart, Manco go-kart seat. And all three of these have, I think each one of them is a 6-speed gearbox. That one's a heavy-duty MST, or I'm sorry, a Peerless 820, and these two have a Peerless MST 206. And to some of you, what I just said was gibberish, but basically we're talking about the models of the Transaxle, the transmission. And that is what makes time travel possible. So this is your basic mower Transaxle. I got 3 of them here. All 3 are different models. Now, like I said, these 2 machines here on the ends, these 2 here have the Peerless MST 206, which is sort of a light-duty Transaxle, but they're very strong. They're the go-to Transaxle for one of these setups. Now, the one over there has the heavy-duty 820. Now, out of these Transaxles, I don't have an MST like these machines have, but this Spicer, this is an old Spicer 6-speed, and it's very similar and very much the same size. And then that's an 820. And you could just see the difference in size of the heavy-duty 820, and also that it has 1-inch axles. These have 3/4 axles. That has needle bearings inside of it. These just have bronze bushings. That is probably 50% heavier than this is. And this is about the same as like an MST 206 as far as the weight goes. This is an older Peerless 900 series, and just to give you an idea how they are designed, you know, the input shaft on the pulley comes down and spins this guy on the main shaft. This one actually has a chain drive reverse. The chain's missing. These 820s also have a chain drive reverse. And this is a 4-speed, but as you can see, it can be a 6-speed. It's just got block-off spacers where those extra 2 gears would be. And in this case, it wouldn't necessarily be faster with a 6-speed. It would be the same top speed. It's just that it would have lower range first and second if it had a 6-speed. The way these work, I'd have to really take it apart to show you, but it's very simple. The shift fork, which is that guy, engages with this, and it basically slides it, and there are keys, the shift keys, that slide in and out between these gears on the inside of where the shaft is. And, you know, it slides and it clink, and it engages a gear, and then it engages the next gear, and the next gear, and the next gear. So, you know, it slides that way one way, gives you your gears back the other way. And so that's how it shifts. You know, this is in reverse right now, and then it'd be neutral in the middle there between first and second, or first and reverse, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then shift it back down through the gears to get back down. This one's actually modified to be reverse pattern. Typically the mowers you push forward, so that's how these are set up. You know, this one is the same exact thing except for all the way back is reverse, and it is obviously the same thing on this one. All the way back is reverse, push forward to shift up. One of the simplest modifications that you do to these to make them what they are is a throttle pedal. You could pretty much come up with anything, build it out of whatever junk you have laying around, and you'll have yourself a throttle pedal. You just need to bypass the governor, because the governor itself will have a spring so that it won't really work without bypassing it. Now, on the hot rod tractor, I've actually completely removed the governor internally, but the original linkage is all still hooked up. So it's using the original linkage. But the thing is, you got to remember is you have to have a throttle return spring on the carburetor. So, of course, you need a throttle. You need a throttle pedal return. That's one thing. You know, the throttle pedal itself needs to have some sort of return spring. But the carburetor, the throttle on the carburetor, also needs a return spring. Otherwise, it'll just go wide open. Another thing to keep in mind when you're looking for one of these or building one is the front axle. They are cast iron axles on all of these machines, and some of them did not have cast iron axles. Some of these machines come with a stamped steel, like fabricated, they call it a fabricated axle, and you don't really, you could use those for a while, but if you're really gonna like beat these through the woods, you want the cast iron axle. In fact, it literally says it right on this one, cast iron, and you're never going to really break that. So the problem with the fabricated axles that are not the cast iron axle is that this section here where the spindle goes in is just thin sheet metal basically, and it can rip out of there. You know, you can easily damage it. And then, of course, you can see we got the Heim joints on our steering. That's our drag link that comes from the steering box, and Heim joints on the tie rod. Another key thing that, in my opinion, makes these way better than any go-kart is the wheel and tire, or particularly the tire choices that you have. Right off the bat, you have much more ground clearance. Now, granted, they don't have suspension. Neither does a go-kart typically. I mean, you can get suspension go-karts, but they're more expensive. And again, it's a go-kart. You get the experience that you're going to get out of a go-kart. These being a front engine rear-wheel drive as opposed to like a rear engine go-kart, it's a totally different driving experience. So you get the ground clearance, you could drive them through the woods, you can drive them over a lot of stuff that you can't do with a go-kart. And the wheels and the tires that you can put on them, you got a lot of options. So, of course, like I said, that one pretty much has stock wheels and tires on it, or it has Garden Tractor upgraded 8-inch wheels in the front. But more or less, those are just, you know, basic mower tires on that. And these are mower tires on the front of this one on 8-inch wheels. In fact, I believe those are the same exact wheels on both of these in the front. But of course, these have much larger tires. And I'm not going to get into all the different sizes right now, but you can just see by looking. And then that has four-wheeler tires on the back, but those are mower wheels. And that's the cool thing about, you know, the mowers too. They have the option for 5-lug hubs. You can get 5-lug hubs for the transaxles. And then you can also do what I did here, which is use the transaxle hub as an idler hub on the front with bushings. Now, Ideally, you really want to modify it and put like trailer hubs on it, and that would give you the same bolt pattern. But in this case, I just have bronze bushings, and I have basically the exact same hubs that I have in the rear. And again, these are all rear wheels basically on this. And these are just mower tires as well on this. These are just regular garden tractor rear tires, a little bit bigger in the back than the front, so they're staggered fitment. And being that it is 5 lug, 5 on 4.5, you can even put trailer wheels and tires on it, which I did have on that machine at one point. And hey, you could even put big car tires, like Jeeps have a 5 on 4.5. Some, like, I think even Fords of certain years, certain models have 5 on 4.5. There's a lot of options with the 5 on 4.5 bolt pattern. These wheels are, again, the exact same wheels that these two have on the front. So I believe, well, actually the ones on that machine might have bearings and this one might have bearings. These ones are, I think, just bushings, but those are the 8-inch garden tractor wheels. And there's 4-wheeler tires, or actually, I guess those would be 4-wheeler tires on the front of that. A little bit smaller front fitment, and then those type of tires on the back wheel, which are actually for the one here in the middle. So, you know, you got a lot of options. You got 8-inch wheels or 12-inch wheels. Those are typically your two sizes. And the trailer tires there, those wheels are also 12-inch. So the back tires on that are 12-inch, and these are all 12-inch. And then that brings us over to this one, which is also on 12-inch garden tractor wheels. This one has the just 1-inch regular slip fit hub wheels on the front with the bronze bushings, and then the back are old wheel horse wheels that have a really deep offset. And again, 4-wheeler tires, 25-inch tall. I think they're 25 850s on the front, 25 1050s on the rear, and a whole bunch more stuff that we're not going to get into right now because this is a project that's ongoing that you guys haven't seen in a while. And some of you might be watching this are totally new to the channel, so you hadn't seen it at all. But we will be getting back on this project soon. I'm actually looking forward to ripping that. And it has a totally different transaxle, by the way, than all of these. This has the 3-speed garden tractor transaxle with a high range and low range. So another really cool thing, when you have a bunch of different engines, you can have a bunch of different sounds. And that gives you an opportunity as well when you have a multi-cylinder engine to do cool things with the exhaust. Or even a single-cylinder engine, you know, long exhaust out the back is going to sound way different than a short exhaust. And so each one of these has a unique exhaust setup. And let me show you that. It's basically what makes these machines, and one of the things that makes these machines so fun is the sound that they make and the different experiences you get from the different engine platforms. The exhaust on this, I did quite a long time ago. I didn't do it on the channel, but it has, you can't really see it. Well, you can kind of see it in there. Let me see if I can get you some light. There you go. So it has a 2-to-1 equal length header. And it's just basically built with stock mower pipes. And then I made the collector for it. That equal length 2-to-1 header goes to a 1 3/4, I think it is, exhaust, which is actually, the chrome parts are Harley Sportster exhaust. So basically I made it from drag pipes for a Harley. And then just, you know, your universal flexi pipe there in the middle. And that gives this thing a really crazy sound. And it's really what makes this thing so cool. I think it's why it gets the attention that it does. And then this one has also a 2-to-1, not equal length on this one, but it definitely sounds really good, and a custom built muffler as well. He got a perforated tube inside of what looks like probably a 2-inch pipe, I would say, and it's really quiet, actually. I would say it's too quiet. But it sounds really good, and it actually runs great. Whether it's a V-twin, an opposed twin, or a 4-cylinder or a 3-cylinder, having all the cylinders merge into a single exhaust with a nice merge pipe is going to make the most power, the most torque. That's the ideal exhaust setup. You know, even on a motorcycle, like a Harley will run better with a 2-into-1 than it will with a, like, dual drag pipes. So it also depends on your preference for sound. You know, a dual exhaust on this V-twin or a dual exhaust on this post-twin is going to sound totally different than a single, 2-into-1 single exhaust. It depends on the preference you have for the sound, and if you're willing to sacrifice that little bit of extra performance if you wanted to do a dual exhaust. And then this guy over here, of course, is just a single cylinder, and it has a little, like, I think it's a stock Mower glass pack of some kind, or some kind of little muffler in there, and then that exhaust runs down the frame and comes right out the back. And this also has a really unique sound. I would say it doesn't really, you'd think, oh, it probably just sounds like a single cylinder dirt bike, but it sounds a little bit different than that. It sounds really good. It has its own unique sound. I actually really like it. The biggest thing I want you guys to take away from this is that these machines are a blank canvas that you can do whatever you want with if you have an imagination and you can weld and you have the mechanical skill to kind of put these things together. You know, a go-kart is a go-kart. It's just what it is. You know, you can't really do much to it to make it any different and make it unique and cool. These are truly the hot rods of go-karts, or I mean, you even could compare them to like a custom-built chopper with 4 wheels, because you can basically think up anything. You can change the bodywork, you can put different wheels and tires on them, and you have different engines, different exhaust sounds. There's so much you can do with these, and that is really what makes them special and what makes them a lot of fun to build. And obviously, you can tell that all 4 of these machines have their own unique character. I mean, this one kind of just looks like a basic stock tractor, but it goes fast and it can tow things. You know, it's pretty usable. And this one's kind of more like a go-kart as far as they all go. And as far as being, being able to think up anything with your imagination and blank canvas, I mean, look, you got the potential to do suspension just on the seat. It's not hooked up right now, but you can see where those go. So it rides a lot smoother than the other ones, even though the suspension is only on the seat. Then, of course, each one has its own. That one there has a stock steering setup, but this one has the little go-kart wheel, little remote-mounted tack. This one with the much larger old-school steering wheel and the tack and the switchgear, custom-made aluminum dash. And that one over there just hasn't gotten that far yet, but that one has a bit bigger steering wheel, an old school, some kind of old like dune buggy wheel that I found, much larger than your typical go-kart wheel. And again, as far as customizing them goes, the bodywork is another cool thing. You can get a newer, like, I guess that Husqvarna hood over there is an example of what your typical mower you're going to find looks like. And the Craftsman's are the same thing. They have like a rounded kind of, not that great looking hood. And so you can just modify it to put old school bodywork on from like an older mower. You can find people selling, you find these mowers for like virtually nothing. And sometimes you can find the parts on their own for very cheap. And that's an example of it right there, is that, this was a Craftsman that was much like that Husqvarna setup. And this is like a 2001 or something like that machine, but that bodywork is probably from the 80s. The old Agway setup. And normally the Agway hood would go here and pivot. It's been beat up over time, so it doesn't fit very well anymore, but, it's got the Zeus fasteners holding it on, and that also makes it look a little longer. And you can actually see how that one's set up over there, which is basically the same hood, how it actually goes over the grill, and it looks much shorter. And then on this one, the rear fenders and the footboards and all that was customized, and it just kind of looks stock, but it was customized to fit those larger tires. So you can see the middle part is the original fender, and the outer parts are some other modified fender from like an old square body Craftsman or something. And then this machine was a 2006 Craftsman garden tractor, which had a roundy, kind of hood. And then that is an older style garden tractor, Craftsman garden tractor hood. And the side panels have been flipped around the opposite way. The front is made out of footboards, and the rear is made out of front hood panels from the original hood with some motorcycle rear fenders, and that part we haven't really finished yet. But you can see where I'm going. I mean, a lot of options to really make these things unique. And just an honorable mention, my old mower here that I haven't actually mowed with in a while, but this is what that Husqvarna hood came off of, and I just wanted to show it to you to give you another idea of like the different old school hoods that are out there that you could play around with, and kind of just what you could do to these that is so simple but radically changes the appearance. And so this one was just my mower, and I just had to make it look cooler. So there is an old video from over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago almost at this point, and it was a Husqvarna, but same chassis as those other ones. And on this one, I moved the axle out in front. It still pivots, and put those footboards. Those are the original Agway footboards that go to the other bodywork on the other one, and that old Sears Suburban hood, and a 2-into-1, just a non-equal length manifold 2-into-1 to the custom stack that I also made. Put a nice cut on that. It looks awesome. And again, that is a Harley drag pipe. That's the other pipe of the two that I had. And this one has the Vanguard V-twin. So when you're looking at these machines, you're going to find, if you look into it, you're going to find that everybody says the Vanguard is the best engine. I will say the Intech is also pretty much equally as good. The Vanguards are typically smaller displacement and less horsepower. So if you're just kind of mildly modifying them, I'd just recommend an Intech, because they're usually a bigger engine with more power from the beginning, when they're stock. So I think that pretty much covers it. So the message I'm really trying to convey here is that, you can go out and spend a couple $100, $200, $300, and even more than that on a go-kart. Or you can find, a $50 or $100 lawnmower and modify that and have way more fun, way more potential, and down the road, you could do more mods to it. And really, for the most part, these are just all built with mower parts. And if it's not a mower part, it's a cheap part that was got off of Marketplace. Like the tires, yeah, it's got big 25-inch four-wheeler tires on it. You can find, they're worn out. So you can find worn out tires like that on Marketplace for pretty cheap. And, but 90% of the parts on these are mower parts, or parts that were, 100% of the parts are dirt cheap used parts. The only exception is if you go back and you watch the video where I did the trailer wheels and tires on the hot rod tractor, I bought those new on eBay. That was too much money, but you can find those used as well. But anyway, that does it for this one. I'm going to try to get back in gear, uploading on a regular basis again. We'll get back to that garden tractor project over there. Finally, hopefully get it running and driving. Well, it runs, but, get it, completed. And I don't know, I might do some other stuff with these. I kind of want to maybe see if I can, figure out what each one does top speed-wise. The only problem is I don't really have anywhere to, really test these machines out as far as, drag racing acceleration runs or anything. So it is tough when I have this little bit of property, but the driveway has potholes all through it, and it's not very long. I don't know if it looks long on camera, but it's really not that long. And with these questionable brakes that they all have, in fact, the one over here, the kind of regular tractor one, doesn't even have brakes. You know, so it's kind of difficult to really do proper testing with them, but I definitely want to start getting some of that, somehow get some of that completed. But yeah, I just rambled on like I usually do. I might just have cut that part out of the video, but since I'm saying that, I probably didn't cut it out of the video. So go ahead and like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed already, and what was the other one? Share it with your friends, and yeah, thank you guys for watching. I will see you next time.